All right, so one thing I want to point out is now how do we use this unit circle with trig? So one thing is we have this coordinate point of x comma y, meaning our x value is radical 3 over 2, and the y value is 1/2. Meaning if I went to the right a distance of radical 3 over 2, and I went up a distance of 1/2, I would have a hypotenuse of 1, because my distance from the center to the edge is always going to be 1 in a unit circle. Therefore, this side of that triangle would be a distance of radical 3 over 2, and this side of the triangle would be a distance of 1/2. And so that's what all of these coordinate points mean. Now, x comma y, we could actually write this as cosine comma sine. And so what we're saying is that cosine is actually the x value and sine is actually the y value. How I remember that is x comes before y alphabetically speaking. In the same way, cosine comes before sine alphabetically speaking. So cosine belongs to x and sine belongs to y. Okay, what do I mean by that? Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of examples. So let's say example 1 here. I wanted to figure out what is the cosine of 120 degrees. So the cosine of 120. And I wanted to know what that meant. So I'm going to find 120 degrees on here. And I know that cosine is the x value. So at 120 degrees on my coordinate point, I want to know what the x value is. Well, the x value is a negative 1/2. Therefore, the cosine of 120 degrees is a negative 1/2. In the same way, what if I wanted to find the sine of 11 pi over 6? So let's say number 2. I wanted to find the sine of 11 pi over 6. So what is the sine of 11 pi over 6? So I'll go to my orange, I'll find 11 pi over 6. Now the sine value is the y value. So at 11 pi over 6, here's my x comma y. My y value is also negative 1/2. So my sine value is negative 1/2. So interesting, the cosine of 120 is negative 1/2, and the sine of 11 pi over 6 is negative 1/2. I do want you to get used to dealing with degrees and radians. Now there's one more thing that I want to show you. When we think of slope, right? When we think of slope of this line, we think of rise over run. Now, if I told you rise over run, another way you could think of that is y over x, because our up and down is our rise, that's our y-axis, and our left and right, or our run, would be our x-axis. So up and down, left and right. So rise over run. What's interesting then, if y is sine and x is cosine, then we could say that our slope is sine over cosine. Now what does that mean? That means that slope is represented by the tangent function. So the tangent of an angle measure is the same thing as the sine of that angle divided by the cosine of that angle. It would be the rise over run. Let's do a practical example. So for example, let's say I wanted to find the tangent of 3 pi over 4. I wanted to know the tangent of 3 pi over 4. So I'm dealing with radians, so I'm looking at my orange. Here's 3 pi over 4. So tangent of 3 pi over 4, given this coordinate point, how do I find that? Well, if tangent is rise over run, or y over x, or sine over cosine, then I need to figure out what is the sine value. Well, that's my y value. So tangent is the y value divided by my x value. So in this case, I have my y value is radical 2 over 2 being divided by, that's my rise, over my run, which is negative radical 2 over 2. Now, let's deal with the easier part first. How do I simplify this? We have a positive value being divided by a negative value. What's a positive divided by a negative? That's going to be negative. Now, then we have, what is anything divided by itself? these are the same. It's radical 2 over 2 divided by another radical 2 over 2. It's no different than saying what is 5 divided by 5. Anything divided by itself is 1. So in fact, the tangent of 3 pi over 4, which is right here in orange, it's the same thing as 135 degrees. Tangent we just learned is y over x, or sine over cosine. But because those are the same, we just have to pay attention to the sign. And we're saying that our sine is positive divided by negative, resulting in a negative. So the tangent of 3 pi over 4 is -1.